If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist, where we talk boxing, past, present, and future. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, try to be a full-time observer, joined by former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, Jack Hirsch. Jack, how are you this evening? You got to unmute yourself, Jack.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement going on, Frank. I mean, I was speechless about it in the beginning. What do you mean I was muted? I was speechless that we actually have things to talk about. And we have a good guest later. Let me tell people up front about our guest a little later. I'll make it quick. Aaron Snowell. Aaron Snowell has worked with some top heavyweights. He was closely affiliated with Muhammad Ali. And he was Mike Tyson's chief trainer / cornerman the night Mike lost the title to James Buster Douglas.
So there's a lot of things we can talk to him about there.
And he has a lot of good with working with fighters at camp, and he has a lot of good stories. And he's a good guy, Aaron Snowell, a very good guy.
I've never met him, Jack, but I've seen him around. He seems like a nice guy. Let me just say this. You've got some good guests the last couple of weeks. Smitty was good last week. He brought some things that, some insight. I mean, think about that. The Fifth Street Gym with Muhammad Ali and the Miami Dolphins ball boy.
You love that stuff.
They counted when the Dolphins were relevant.
You've heard enough about the Fifth Street Gym, but you love the Dolphin talk. I mean, did I give you enough time to talk about the Dolphins without cutting in or not? I'm not sure, because you would have loved to have talked about them all show, and I wouldn't have minded hearing about them. But
I'll catch up with them later. But Jack, when I was a little kid, I was obviously this. I was infatuated and fascinated by Muhammad Ali. But I have to admit, the Miami Dolphins and Don Shula from like 1970 to say 74. Man, they were right there. I lived and died with the Dolphins. And quickly I remember, and this is the gospel truth. I remember watching, I meant to say this last week, Jack. I remember watching Super Bowl VIII when they beat the Vikings. I believe I was about to turn 16. So I was 15. It was a couple months before my 16th birthday. And Jack, this is the gospel truth. I remember I watched it at my girlfriend's house, and her older brother and his friends were there. He was only like 3 or 4 years older than me. And I remember when that game ended, I turned to him. His name was Ray Fetter. And I said, Ray, I have a terrible feeling that I will never see this team win the Super Bowl again in my lifetime. And that was January 14th of 1974. You're muted again.
The Jets won the Super Bowl when I was in high school. I'm on Social Security now, okay? And they haven't been back, okay? And our producer, Brian Arndt, the Lions have never even been to the Super Bowl. So, some people have it a little worse. Oh, by the way, we're talking about guests. Next week, we have a special guest, exclusive. Anthony Joshua signed to fight today Christian Pranga. Supposedly that's a tune-up for him for the Tyson Fury fight, but Pranga plans to spoil that. We're going to have his opponent on the show next week. His opponent, Christian Pranga, is going to be our guest on the show here next week.
And his record is what, Jack? He only has one loss.
Right. 20 wins, 1 loss. The 1 loss was in his 5th fight, Frank. He has stopped his last 16 opponents. So on paper, at least, he has to be considered a threat. I don't care how weak you might think those opponents are. But one of the opponents he stopped, to do just a little comparison, Joey Dewechko, I always pronounce his name wrong, the Philadelphia heavyweight who's not a bad fighter. He stopped him.
And he's fought everybody.
And Richard Torres, the fight before that, it took him 5 rounds to stop the same fighter. And he gets in shape. He's an Albanian heavyweight. He gets in shape. He's not out of condition, and he's a big guy. So Joshua will not have any serious size on him. Joshua will be taller, but he'll outweigh Joshua by a little. So size isn't going to be a factor. And we both know, Frank, and you've mentioned it, there's something about Joshua that bothers you as far as his durability, what type of punch he might be able to take. See, you don't know. I mean, if Joshua...
I don't think Joshua's an automatic, Jack, against anybody that's competent.
Not anybody. Right. And
if he's got size and power, it's heavyweight boxing. You can't count him out.
Exactly. And Frank, you have a homework assignment, okay? I have the audacity, the nerve to give you a homework assignment. I know you're thinking bleep you, Jack, but you can't say it, on the air. No, I understand that. But you can break down styles better than anyone I know. Open the door for Pranga next week when he's on the show. I want you to tell him what you think he has to do to upset Joshua. And the homework assignment is watching some of his fights on YouTube, but some of the rounds, enough to get a good feeling for the way Pranga fights and what he has to do.
And that fight is set for July, Jack? Is that July?
25th, July 25th in Saudi Arabia. And because of that, Frank, I'm giving in before you. I think I'm going to get the Zone Ultimate package. One of the reasons Pranga's fighting in July, good fights are coming up. This week, Inoue and Nakatani. I forgot to mention that before the show. I'm thinking of Benavidez.
And that's on ESPN Plus, right?
No, that's on the Zone. Nakatani and the Nui.
It's on, okay.
All right. So that ESPN Plus doesn't seem to have anything anymore, to me at least, of interest. But that's on the Zone. And then then in the evening, you could either get it on Prime or the Zone, but it's a pay-per-view. But if you have the Zone Ultimate package, it might be included. I think it would be included. Benavidez and Zerto Ramirez. And the week after that, pretty good heavyweight matchup, Fabio Wardley against Daniel Dubois. So they are giving you fights, and they'll give you one in June that I know you'll love seeing, Boots Ennis against Sanders Zayas. That's a genuinely good fight.
The game is heating up a little bit. Hey, Little Holmes, how you doing?
Hey, Little Holmes.
Now, is Fury going to fight before he and the way I understand is Joshua's going to fight Prango. If he wins that fight, then he and Fury are going to meet
him and Fury
later this year.
This year,
okay.
Right. So figure if Joshua's fighting July 25th, it's got to be at least about 3 months later. August.
Yeah, it'll be in November.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe the Joshua Camp Matchroom is thinking it's going to be an easy fight, that Joshua could continue training and be better served than taking a leave of absence. It always stuck to me what the great Jim Brown said about Muhammad Ali. And he was very close to Muhammad Ali on a personal level. After the Oscar Bonavina fight, Jim Brown said, had Ali went into training immediately after the fight, he would have been so much better against Joe Frazier than he was. But Ali took kind of like a month off. And according to Brown, it wasn't a way to do it. That he had to really continue training straight through.
He also was a little sore after that fight too, and did need some time to recoup. Ali,
you do, but you could train. You don't have to spar. You could train and work through soreness, even if it's road work, hitting some pads easily.
All right. Let's assume Joshua wins and Fury's not going to fight. Do you think the fight is going to happen this time? Frank, I do, because they have nowhere to go.
Frank, you're spoiling it by guess. Next week, you're going to have to tell him what he needs to do to beat Joshua.
You're right. But Jack, it's a talk show, so we got to come up with content. Right. So let's assume that Joshua wins.
Assuming Joshua wins,
will the fight happen?
Yeah, the fight's supposedly all set. He agreed to fight Fury, and they're going under the assumption that Joshua wins. But I am certain, Keith, I mean, I'm certain.
Frank.
His manager's Keith Sullivan.
Oh, okay.
Frank. That's why I, said that. Frank, I'm certain, knowing Keith Sullivan, whatever, knowing Matchroom, knowing everything involved, there'll be a rematch clause, and I'm sure if Joshua loses, he's going to want to get in the ring with Prange again as soon as possible.
Okay,
if
but
he
let's
somehow
just,
loses.
for the sake of this show, let's just assume that Joshua wins. Okay? Do you believe he and Fury will finally fight?
Oh yeah,
I will.
it's a done deal. It's
Okay.
supposedly a done deal.
Okay, but
That
with
they
boxing, we
signed
know
and
it's not a done
everything.
deal till they get in the ring.
Yeah, but they agreed to everything,
Okay.
supposedly. The
So
money
the
and
next question
everything.
is, for the sake of the show, if you had to pick right now, who would you pick?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. I would
There's not a firing squad if you get it wrong, Jack. It's not a big deal.
Right now, I would pick Anthony Joshua to beat Fury, and I'll tell you why. I think what we've seen of Fury, especially in his last fight, I don't think he can do any better than that. I think he's a big guy, a slow fighter now. He moves well for a big man, don't get me wrong. But he's not really a quick fighter anymore. He's not going to beat anyone with speed. And the only physicality, how he's going to beat an opponent's by lying on him and tiring him out with his big body. I think Joshua hooking up with Usyk is invaluable because I think Joshua is going to get the type of training, physical training he never got before. Usyk is like a bleeping machine in the conditioning department. And Joshua's going to go through all of that. He started with Usyk already. I mean, it's going to be crazy the shape Joshua is going to be in compared to before. So I don't think Joshua is going to fade out later in the fight. I don't think so. And I think Joshua's got a more direct punch output. He punches more straight than Fury does, more directly. And I think he's going to score points a little better than Fury will during the fight. And I think he'll tie Fury up enough or hold him off. And I think Fury's going to feel Joshua's power. And I think that's going to make Fury box a little more at the times he's trying to get bold.
Okay. I've said since the Ngannou fight that Fury is he's shot. He doesn't have anything left at the elite level, even though he did fight Usyk pretty even for 3/4 of the fight both times. But I think Joshua's the one guy who he can get. He if there's whatever's left will come out in that fight. And I just think when they get into the ring, I just think he's going to be the alpha. And I think Joshua's going to be at the end of his jab and waiting to pull the trigger on the perfect shot the whole night, which he's never going to feel comfortable letting it go. And he's going to lose a decision. That's my pick right now. It would be Fury. And we have a long time to think about it and talk about it. And we have Joshua's fight. But I think right now I will go with Fury. While we're making picks, Benavidez is fighting Zuro Ramirez this week, who's only been defeated one time. He's taken a lot of heat from that loss. It was to Bivol, right?
To Bivol, yeah.
He takes a lot of heat from that, but Bivol, I think, could outbox anybody at 175 currently. And I just think the difference is going to be Benavidez is just going to be busier. He's going to work him. He's going to outwork him. He's going to throw more volume. I don't think Zurdo can get him out. I'm not sure Benavidez can get him out. I think it's going to come down to attrition and volume, and I'm going to go with Benavidez to win a decision.
It should be a great fight because Zurdo Ramirez is going to meet him head on.
Yeah, he's going to fight him.
Right, he's going to fight him. And, I was going to say Benavidez by decision, by, clear decision. He was going to be the stronger guy, a lot of infighting.
But since I said it, you're going to go late round stoppage.
Yeah, talking to you now, I'm going to go that because they're going to meet head on. And what does that tell you about Benavidez if he can't stop Ramirez, who's going to meet him head on, and they're going to go at it all fight? that means Benavidez isn't the monster. If a guy is meeting him head on and he can't get him out of there. And
But
then I'm gonna
Zorro's a
point
big
out-
guy, Jack. It's going to be hard to blow a guy like that
Look
out.
at Plant. Plant went the distance. Then we're going to all of a sudden, and Vatzik went the distance with the monster. And all of a sudden, if you're going to be called a monster, you got to get stoppages. You got to get guys out of there. You can't have a double standard.
But Jack, they're fighting a cruiserweight.
Going the distance with three guys, you know.
But it's a cruiserweight fight.
I know, but Benavidez is.
So he's going from 168 up to the 190s. It's like he's not going to blow guys out like he did at 168.
Well, he's had a hard time making weight before. Let's see. And then early.
So he should be really strong here.
Yeah, Benavidez can be had. That's the thing about it. I don't look him as being unbeatable by any means. I know he's portrayed that image, and I know, and he's a terrific fighter. And I know anyone could be had, but I'm going to tell you, if he fought Bivol and Bivol was in peak form, absolute peak form, the way he was against Benavidez,
I would pick Bivol to beat him, no doubt.
Bivol to beat him. There we go. Listen, Nakatani, in a way, Naoya Inoue is fighting Nakatani in what some people are calling the biggest fight in Japan boxing history this weekend. But to me, once in a while, something happens to a fight that the luster comes off it, and that's Nakatani's last fight. He won a controversial decision. Before that, it was such a great matchup. Now all it is a very good matchup, and Nakatani has a chance of winning the fight. I realize that. But before Nakatani's last fight, it was a virtual pick'em fight. A lot of people were thinking Nakatani would actually beat Inoue. Now that's not quite the case.
It's hard to go against Inoue for me, Jack, because this is what I know. I know he's always in shape. He throws a ton of punches. He's fast. He can throw every punch in the book. He doesn't let punches go unanswered. And he's the ultimate bully at his weight. He is fighting a guy a little bit bigger. Again, I'm going to take the easy way out, and I'm going to say that the little monster, wins by decision against a guy that has height and reach over him. So there might be a price to pay to get in, and that's where the fight's going to be won and lost. If Nakatani can do anything to maybe impede Inoue's aggression, I don't know if he can do that enough to win enough rounds to do it.
One of the confidence factor, Frank. You know what this reminds me of? Remember before Dwayne Bobbick fought Ken Norton, he had a match with the guy. Oh boy, he was managed by the guy who was the actor in Sanford and Son. What was his name?
Young Sanford or Fred Hope?
Frank Hope. You're right. And Dwayne Bobbick struggled to win a very close, somewhat controversial decision in that fight as the lead into Ken Norton. So Bobbick was still unbeaten when he fought Norton, and there were a lot of people picking Bobbick to actually beat Norton. But to me, I couldn't pick Bobbick anymore if I was going to pick him, because to see him struggle right before he fought Norton, and that's the same feeling I have with Nakatani.
Fred Hope, Jack. It was Fred Hope.
Fred Hope.
That's what I said. Fred Hope, and it was 7 months. It was his last fight, 7 months before he fought Norton. He went 10 rounds. I remember that fight. He went to 38-0. He did not look good in that fight.
Not at all. And that's what I think about with Nakatani, okay, with Inoue. And mentally with Nakatani, you wonder what his mindset is, because he had a swagger before the last fight. He didn't badmouth Inoue. That's his countryman. But you got the feeling that Nakatani was coming to take over boxing in Japan, basically, his thought was. And Inoue perceived him as a major threat. You know, when you're going to fight Nakatani, everyone was asking him. And now that it's here, Nakatani can't think I have a psychological edge anymore, because he struggled himself in a fight that a lot of people thought he actually lost, and he got the decision.
It also, Jack, could make it. It also could have woke him up, and could have been the wake-up call that he needed to really get ready for this fight. So I think you're putting a little too much into it. But who knows? I was going to pick Inoue either way. But I mean, look, I can see your point. I just think that Inoue is more of a special generational fighter than Nakatani from what I've seen.
Aaron Snowell hasn't come on yet. There's some problem with the connection. I'm just letting you know. Hopefully he comes on.
Jack,
we'll keep talking in the meantime. Let me just ask you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
In a way, if he wins this fight big, sensationally, clearly, or whatever, does that make him the number one fighter pound for pound in the world on the list, or what?
I guess until Usyk fights, maybe it does. I'm
So
not
what
crazy
are you
about the
gonna do?
pound for pound because it's all who fought last. But Inoue has as good a case as anybody. And if he wins, he adds another layer to it. That's the best way I can answer that.
Yeah, because he would have beaten a legitimately top of the line fighter. Is beating Nakatani have more value than Stevenson beating Teofimo Lopez?
Say that again.
What has more value on the pound for pound list? Inoue beating Nakatani or Shakur having beaten Teofimo Lopez?
I think Nakatani is perceived as a better fighter at his weight than Teofimo was at the time he fought Shakur. So I would say yes.
Yeah. Okay, what were you going to say before that, Frank?
Have you seen any of the interviews that have been popping up on Reels regarding, since we're going to speak to Aaron Snowell, about the interviews with Muhammad Ali, Belinda Camacho Ali, that are showing up? She did a real long interview with a podcaster, and she really had some really interesting things to say about Ali and different things about him that were, mostly good. She did say one thing. She said that if the public knew certain sides of him, she said that she will never expose, she'll never write a book and never talk about. She says, let me just say this. She goes, if the people knew some of the things I knew about what he did to me, she said they would hate him.
Yeah, listen, Ali was a human. Don't get me wrong. Ali was a great humanitarian, not a very good humanitarian, a great humanitarian. He had
a flawed man.
And he had a heart of gold, but he had his flaws, and people don't want to hear about it. One of the things with Ali, which really always kind of annoyed me when the war was going on, the Vietnam War, Ali wouldn't serve. Ali was hailed as a hero. What a great man of principle. And I'm not saying he wasn't. I'll give you that Ali was a man of principle. But think of all the guys who went to fight in the war. They were men of principle, and they put more on the line than Ali did.
Right.
Nobody put their lives on the line. Ali just put his career on the line and serving some jail time. These guys were putting their legs on and arms on the line, their life on the line. So I don't want to keep hearing Ali a man of principle, this or that. And Ali was not a war activist. That's what gets me too. His situation was related to himself. After Ali got his license back, the Vietnam War was still going on. You didn't see Ali at any protests talking against what was going on with the government. But listen, Ali he did so many nice things, and you witnessed it firsthand. I mean, my only interaction with Ali, unlike you, Frank, was so quick, and I regret it. It was a press conference before the James Toney Steve Collins fight, and they ushered him to the back of a room, and I had a photographer with me, and I snuck to the back and said, Muhammad, can I just have a quick picture? And I could tell he was annoyed because he wanted to get away. The picture was snapped. I went, thanks, and I ran out of there. That way, and I invaded his space, his privacy. That was the equivalent of a guy eating his dinner and me coming up in the middle while he had food in his mouth.
Right.
Not the same. But you spent like 3 hours with him. It was great. That showed the type of person he was. And
he still had it. He was 49 years old. He still had his wits about him that night. But anyhow, I'm just bringing it up, Jack, because if you get a chance, take a look at it. She says some interesting things about the Nation of Islam. She said she never liked him fighting His sparring partners, she tried to talk him out of the Holmes fight. She didn't even want him to fight Jimmy Ellis because she thought Jimmy Ellis knew him well. She talked about that he and Frazier were actually friendly, and there was no animosity in the
Oh, you
beginning
know
on either
better,
part.
Frank. You knew Joe Frazier. You knew the animosity had
Yeah.
towards that.
Allie went too far, and she said he admitted that in later years. But anyhow, it was pretty interesting. She talks about a night that Elvis Presley came by and they opened the mall and they went shopping. There's some good stuff in there that none of us have heard, and she has so many things to go along with it to back up the story. You have to believe that it's true. She also talks about his womanizing and before the Frazier fight and yada yada yada. She also said that he had to lose the first Frazier fight. If he didn't lose that, he would have never beat Foreman. So anyhow, if you get a chance, check it out. And
Listen, Frank, I mean, that's an interesting talk. You know, it's all hypothetical. Let's say he was given the decision in the first Frazier fight. It would be a very unpopular decision. Let's put it that way. Let's make believe Ali got the decision. A lot of people would be saying Frazier was robbed. What a terrible decision. Of course, Ali
would have fought again.
Right. Ali would have his supporters saying, no, he really won the fight. When would they have fought again? It wouldn't have taken them that long to fight again. Because I have to believe Ali would have accommodated Frazier within a year. And would Frazier have lost his edge the way he did after the first Ali fight? He was never the same. He lost his edge. The motivation wasn't quite the same. The motivation would have remained.
I'm not saying I agree with her. She just said that when he was preparing for that fight, he didn't take it serious. He was too confident. And she said she told him he was going to lose. She said he just brushed it off. And she said he needed that to get taken down because he just was too full of himself. That's all. It's just a nugget.
Reportedly, she mentioned before, he seemed to be extremely confident, but it was an arrogance. He wouldn't allow him. That's why he maybe initially didn't train as hard. He trained like about 7 weeks hard for the fight at the end. But it was one of those where there wasn't an urgency because he convinced himself, no, a short little guy like Frazier can't beat him. There was a certain arrogance there. But yeah, Ali had his flaws. Ali definitely had his flaws. And people wouldn't see it, Frank, because it would be like a comedian who would have such great humor. But behind the humor, there were some things that were off. But he was a great humanitarian. I mean, never questioned that.
Right. And she said that basically. Yes, she said that. Yeah, she didn't put him down. Jack, all I'm saying is it's something. If you get a chance just to listen to some of the things she said, I found it somewhat profound. You know, do I believe it all? I don't know. Probably. I doubt it's all true. She is an ex-wife. He did do her wrong.
Well, he did do her wrong. I mean, in Manila, when it came out in the news,
she talks about that.
Yeah, that's humiliating. That's
also
humiliating.
Before we get to Aaron, today is the 70th anniversary of Rocky Marciano retiring. Do you realize that, Jack? 70 years ago today, he announced that he was never fighting again and said he hoped that he could stick to it. And he said, if Joe Louis wasn't successful at it, why would I think I could be?
Yeah, you know, it's another anniversary date, right? Jimmy Ellis, my favorite fighter, beating Jerry Quarry, April 27th, 1968. In the finals of the WBA heavyweight.
And one of the most exciting fights ever.
Oh, well, I mean, there was suspense with the scoring. You know, that was in my lifetime, Frank, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Has there been a greater tournament in any weight division than that tournament? Now, I know we had the Super 6 tournament Showtime had. HBO had a heavyweight tournament. But has there been a greater tournament?
I mean, I can't think so, Jack, but we're probably biased because we were both kids when that happened and captivated by all the fighters in it. Yeah, I mean, that's Frank, a tournament where every underdog won.
Frank, talk a minute. I want to put muted and call Aaron Snowell So to see what the heck is going on, because he should have
Okay.
been in the studio a while ago.
The WB elimination tournament obviously was set up when Ali was taken out of boxing and stripped, and it was between the top contenders at the time by Ring Magazine's top contenders and the top 8. And two guys that were ranked above the guys that didn't make it, two of the guys that didn't make it were Sonny Liston and Joe Frazier. They would not let Sonny Liston in because of his background and because he had lost the way he had lost to Ali. He was still kind of out with the establishment. And Joe Frazier would have been the number 1 seed, but Yank Durham said, we have the number 1 ranking. There's no reason for us to fight. We'll just beat the winner. And that's eventually what happened.
Yeah, Frank, I tried to get through to Aaron Snowell, and I wasn't able to. Ironically, I spoke to him a few hours ago. He called me, and we got it all confirmed. So I just don't understand,
Oh, I hope we get him, Jack, because he was in the corner the night of Douglas Tyson, and I would love to talk about that. Maybe he could. Go ahead.
He came under criticism in that fight. Remember,
because of the rubber thing over Tyson's eye. They didn't have the end
They
swell.
had a water balloon. And sometimes a guy can actually be a decent trainer, decent player, decent this, but he has one bad moment, and you kind of, and you still, and that's what you're remembered by. Like I think of one of the Yankee broadcasters, New York Yankee broadcaster, Paul O'Neill. He's a favorite of Yankee fans. The Yankees even retired his phone number. I mean, his uniform number, excuse me. But he caught the last out of a perfect game pitch by David Wells. Could you imagine he dropped that fly ball? That's what he'd be remembered by, like Billy Buckner, with the ground ball. Or if a guy, Plexico Burris in the Super Bowl, imagine he dropped that pass at the end and the Giants didn't score the touchdown and New England had the unbeaten season. And like it's just one little thing. Asante
and the fans in the media wanted somebody to blame because they couldn't accept that Tyson could lose to Douglas, so they had to have a scapegoat.
Your guy, the Dolphins, Garo Yepremian,
almost blew that Super Bowl.
Right? I mean, that one comical play in which he played volleyball with with
Mike Bass, the DB on the Redskins,
hit it back in. Imagine the Redskins got another TD. They won in overtime. I mean, it's like that's what he's remembered by that now, but people laugh it off because the Dolphins won.
And the Redskins did have the ball when that game ended.
Okay, Aaron Snowell, finally. Let's bring him on. Let's bring on Aaron Snowell. Aaron, glad you're here. We were getting nervous.
Well,
man, we're getting nervous. We're going live here. We're not on tape. We can't go into overtime here. It's like the night of the fight. You know what I mean? You're showing up in the 3rd or 4th round.
Let me tell you, at least you show up and you don't try the great escape like Mayweather's trying to do with Manny Pacquiao. We show up and we show up well.
Mike, this is my co-host Frank Laterzo. I could guarantee you, Aaron, he loved what you just said, because he talked about how carefully Mayweather's orchestrated his career. For those out there who don't know, Aaron Snowell, trainer, cornerman of many big-time heavyweights, Mike Tyson, Tim Witherspoon, on and on and on. I could start naming them, but I'm not sure which order you want me to start.
Aaron, why did you say what you just said about Mayweather trying to get out of it?
Well, it ain't so much that he's trying to get out of it. At this point in career, many big time title fights to say that Mayweather's scared or Manny Pacquiao scared is just misleading.
I don't believe that, right?
With today, with all of this social media and stuff, and creating drama and creating conversation in a promotion, trying to create biz and trying to create conversation. That's what I think it's about. And they're trying to stir up something in order to get people to get sponsors, to get people into the event and try to get the money where they can have a good split of the big money. And that I think that's what they're trying to do from my viewpoint.
By the
Aaron,
time that fight gets close, it's going to be very big. And I hate to say it, but people are going to be really interested in talking about it.
Yeah, well, you know what the numbers did the first time around when both of them were young. If they do anywhere near that or half of that, it's going to be a great sale.
They'll do
They're
half
going
of
to,
that.
yeah, they'll make a lot of money just by doing half of that. But let me tell you, Mayweather and Pacquiao have been a credit to the game of boxing. The way both of them, handle themselves in the ring, always accepting challenges, fighting the very best that are out there. Both of them have a legacy in boxing that's second to none, with Manny Pacquiao. And, it's interesting to see at the old timers like Jack Johnson, his last exhibition he did in New York, where he was raising money for war bonds at 68, months just before he fatally died. You know what I mean? So, Jack and them did it at 68. Let's see if them guys can make it, if they can do exhibitions when that at that stage of the game. And the
yeah,
I
same
agree with
Aaron,
a
got
lot of
their
what you
health.
said. I don't agree about Mayweather. Mayweather picked his spots for me, and he was a perfect manager. Great fighter, always in condition. I love that about him. He took the sport serious. He knew how important it was to win. But to me, his signature wins have a little asterisk by him, unlike other fighters that you and I both grew up loving.
now, Aaron, you were particularly close with Don King. Was it Don who hired you to work with the name heavyweights who he was promoting?
Well, when I came with Don, I was already in the sport of boxing with Slim Robinson. I was Slim Robinson, assistant trainer who,
When he trained at
Slim.
Pass Young Gym,
Yes, I trained in Pass Young Jed
did you
with
really?
Reds. And yeah, I was in Pass Young Gym, Eddie Aliano, Reds. You
Do you
know what I
remember
mean?
Tony
Ted Leg
Mesaraca?
Bates. Yeah, a lot of guys, from Pass Young Gym, you know, to Champs Gym, the Joe Frazier's gym. We trained at them all, and people forget we had a gym with Mark Stewart, who was Tim Witherspoon's manager. He owned 46th Street Arena right in West Philadelphia. We had a gym where we trained, that Mark Stewart, who owned WMOT Recording Company in Philadelphia, who was who was Tim Witherspoon's manager. He was head of WMOT Recording Company. They had a singer, Double Dutch Bus going
I
down the
remember that.
street. You remember
Yes.
that hit? Well, Tim Witherspoon's manager, Mark Stewart, he managed Frankie Smith, and also he was the entertainment director for Hugh Hefner in the Playboy Club in Atlantic City. When all of those big fights were coming to Atlantic City, we used to live in the Playboy Club in Atlantic City because of Mark Stewart.
Aaron, let me
Yeah,
ask you this. I have a couple questions. Let me get this one
yeah,
out
go
quick.
ahead. No, no, take
Were
your
you
time, Frank.
were you in Tim Witherspoon's corner the night he lost to Bone Crusher?
No, I wasn't. That was the
Okay.
first time since Tim. I was with Tim Witherspoon when I met Tim Witherspoon when he came to Muhammad Ali's training camp. They bring him up there. He was sparring with Saad Muhammad, and that's when I met Tim. Tim was an amateur. He only had one fight, and who started Tim Witherspoon out was down there in South Philly gym that was on South Street.
Okay.
Well, Tim
Yeah.
Witherspoon did beat Bone Crusher Smith in a fight before that. It should be
Right. They
pointed out.
fought you. And that was
Yes,
my
he
question,
did.
Jack,
Yeah,
because Tim was clearly a better fighter than
better
Bone
fighter,
Crusher.
yeah.
And he handled him with relative ease
No,
for the NABF title on HBO a year before that.
no, Aaron,
Yeah.
this is might be a sore topic, but Frank and myself were talking about great athletes, great players who've had great careers, but in the minds of some people, they're remembered for one particular play, one particular game. And in the case of you, you've done some great work with a lot of top of the line fighters, champions, so on. But you were criticized when you worked the corners, the chief second for Mike Tyson when he lost to James Buster Douglas, for not using. They said you didn't use the ends well. You used the water balloon, this and that. I mean, how do you respond to that? And what happened that night in the loss to Douglas, the lead up to it, and the night of the fight?
Well, I'm going to tell you what Muhammad Ali taught me when I was a young man. He told me when you're on a certain level, you win big and you lose big. That means that you're big. If so, when Muhammad Ali said that to me a long time ago when I was a kid, I remember what he said. There's different thrills of victory and the agony of defeat, and God put you in certain places for certain reasons, far beyond what you can imagine. If Mike Tyson probably didn't, he lost, but there was controversy and big events where major upsets happen. There's controversy that arrives, and in that Buster Douglas fight, there's plenty of controversy in that fight. However, like I all the time say, I take the responsibility when someone wins, and I can take this responsibility for when someone loses. It goes hand in hand. You just can't take the wins; you got to take the losses too. And I already said, always said this here. They said, well, cut man, I had plenty of great cut man. Ali Anna, when I first start working with Mike, was the cut man that I used. There was a cut man named Taylor Smith from Detroit who was in the corner that night, and he didn't bring the things. But that's not his problem. That's my problem. There's an old thing saying is that, make sure that cut man, you're supposed to check him. And I didn't do that. I took his word for it. And from not taking his word for it, I end up having to take the responsibility from his shortcomings. That's nor here nor there. I take it and I can handle it, but also uh, taking the responsibility for a cut man not knowing what I'm doing. There was a young man in 1992, bronze medal Olympic winner named Tim, the Cincinnati kid Austin, who was in the pound for pound list, who someone I trained when he fought Mobile Butilli uh, for the IBF Bantamweight Championship in Nashville, Tennessee. He got his jaw broke uh, in the first round on Showtime and fought 8 rounds with a broken jaw and end up winning the bantamweight championship. So, I can withstand the criticism. Everything grows in stages. What happened with Mike Tyson, but also on the flip end of there, there's Frankie Randall that came after that loss in a similar situation. God's grace and mercy. He's always gonna, if you hang in there, he bring you down to pick you back up. And Frankie Randall was a similar underdog, like Buster Douglas fighting Julio Cesar Chavez at the opening of the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino. No one gave Frankie Randall a chance to win. That was on Showtime pay per view. Um, and we end up upsetting Julio Cesar Chavez and having Frankie becoming a three-time world champion. So all of that when you're in big things, you come big, you start big, and you end up big. Like I say all the time, people tell people I started on top and I'm finishing on top. It was God's grace and mercy that I was able to be around some of the greatest fighters in the world at Muhammad Ali's training camp, to sit and walk and talk. It's OJT, on the job training, which you don't see much anymore in the game of boxing. What In my time, I was a young man on a high level, and I opened the door by being a young trainer and being able to perform on that level with wit and grit that was passed to me by OJT, on the job training, and SWU, Sidewalk University. I walked beside this guy and talked to him. I walked beside that guy and talked to him, and got my PhD. And I all the time tell people, all the time, boxing, you don't have no degrees. It's based on performance, when you're a trainer and guys. And when you're up against big tasks and big challenges, you have to come out big. And to be able to come out big when Tim Witherspoon beat Greg Page for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World, after Larry Holmes didn't want the championship anymore, and him and Greg Page, where Larry said he didn't want to fight Greg Page, when Tim Witherspoon won that WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World. It was something spectacular, and it was something great after many people thought Tim Witherspoon, when he fought Larry Holmes, that he had beat him, and to come back around the clock and for him to win. Now, Slim Robinson had left. Tim Witherspoon did.
I was a big Witherspoon guy, Aaron. I trained with him. I watched him train. You don't have to sell me. I know what kind of fighter Tim was, and it's a shame because I don't think he ever reached his full potential because of some of the things outside the ring that tied him up.
Let me tell you about Tim. Tim was a great athlete. He was a football player.
Right.
He played off for all kind of different other sports. So Tim Witherspoon was he was an athlete, and Tim Witherspoon learned fast. Tim was a fast learner, so you can move him along fast. Tim Witherspoon only had three amateur fights, and he fought Larry Holmes at 15
15 and
fights.
0.
Yeah, 15 fights. And with Larry, with all the experience and amateur experience he got, to get in there to perform on that great stage where many people felt that he upset the apple cart that night, but just didn't get the nod. But in not getting the nod, I think that fight where Tim used to sacrifice and was trained to the extreme, trying to be great, that broke him. It broke his spirit. He felt that he was let down in that fight. And Tim was never, ever the same because he never would sacrifice like he would sacrifice for that fight. And
Interesting because I think that was the best he ever looked.
yes, it was. And he sacrificed, and that fight left him bitter. Tim was bitter for a long time about that fight because boxing fans used to come up to Tim so many times and so often, and probably still do, and just tell him, say, you got robbed that night. You did beat Larry Holmes. And that was him. It just left him bitter. He would never, ever sacrifice like he did that night when he fought
Now you
Larry.
knew Muhammad Ali very well before you came on. Frank was talking about the recent interviews. Maybe you want to expand on this, Frank, with Ali's former wife.
Well, Belinda's doing it. She's doing an
Go
interview
ahead.
show, and she sheds light on a lot of things that a lot of us couldn't know. And my only point is this, Aaron, it's real. It's interesting to hear her perspective on some things. But I have an Ali question for you.
Okay.
I read in one of Ali's books when you and your buddies were hanging out at Deer Lake, one day he left a suitcase on the desk with $10,000 cash and let everybody see it. And he left the room and he came back and he counted the money and it was all there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it wasn't my buddy, it was my family.
Right.
There's 10 of us in my family. So 8 of us were there. My brothers and sisters, and this is when he first came to the camp. They were first building it in the trailer. They had a trailer on the grounds at that
On the
time.
grounds, right.
And he
Is it
bring us
true that he said that, because you just refreshed my memory, it was your brothers, and because none of you guys touched the money, he wanted to buy your mother a house and she
Yeah.
wouldn't let him. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. He came. Ali said, "I wanted to meet your mother." After
Right.
he left the room and came back, and he started counting the money. He says, "Man, y'all from the projects, y'all don't steal." He said, "I can't believe this." He said, "I want to meet your mother." So he came. He drove up in the projects. He came and he met my mother. He told her, "Look, I want you to go find the biggest, prettiest house around here." He said, "I want to buy it so you and your kids can get out of the projects and stuff like that." My mother said, "Look, my children didn't do anything for you to be buying this big old pretty house." She said, "The good Lord has taken care of us up to this point, and the good Lord would take care of us the rest of the way." And she said, "You better save that money because one day you're going to need it." And Ali go, "I can't believe this, man. I can't believe this. You mean you don't want a big old pretty house? I can't. I want to buy your house and you don't want it." My mother said no. She said, "Keep your money."
Jack,
She
you didn't
said,
know that story, did you?
No, I didn't know. That's an
And that's
extraordinary
exactly how it
story.
was in the book, Aaron. I've been dying to ask you that about that.
Yeah,
and
let me
so
ask that bonus question. Yeah, I'm sorry, Aaron.
that's how Ali start. He led us around him in the camp all the time. We could go there and go in and out of the cabin, anything, do what we wanted, bring our friends and stuff like that, be around them. So in that, uh, that's when him Bernard Morris and them put us in with Ali ice cream commercial. St. John's ice cream is good to eat, fills your stomach and saves your teeth. Hey, kids, our next big fight is tooth decay. So,
Aaron,
yeah.
no, I'm sorry. I mean, that's
No,
great,
come on. What are you
Ali.
going to say, Jack?
No. I got to ask the bonus question. It drives Frank Laterzo crazy, and I'm scared because we're running out of time. You came on late, Aaron. That's not like you. You're highly dependable.
Yeah,
I don't
I
get
know.
this. I mean, a guy as dependable as you. I mean, that's why
Yeah,
you're coming up with fascinating stuff. I'm mesmerized hearing these stories, and I've been
Jack,
around the
I
world.
know the question, and let me just clear this up.
Bonus question. Yeah.
Last week, the guest we had agreed with you, but his partner, Lee Groves, emailed me after the show and told me that he
Oh,
agreed
okay.
with me.
Who would have won? You're an expert on heavyweight boxing. Who would have won in their prime, between Kenny Norton and Ron Lyles?
which one would I take?
If they faced one
Yes.
another, and their prime, the two of them, at their
And,
best.
at their best, man, that's tough. But because both of them were really something. I mean, both of them could take a licking and keep on ticking, but they could kick like a mule, both of them.
But
And huh?
if you had to make a pick,
Yeah, I would go with Ron Lyle.
Okay.
thank you.
I would go with Ron Lyle. What hit the battle that him and George Foreman had, that knock me down, get up, knock me down, get up, knock me
I
down, get
knock
up,
you
knock
down.
me
Yep.
down and get up. Probably were some of the best rounds of heavyweight competition of all time.
Now, what was the greatest thrill of your career?
The greatest thrill of my career, there's a couple of them, and I put them one, two, three, and I gotta say this: when Tim Witherspoon won the heavyweight championship, that WBC heavyweight championship of the world, it was exciting. I was young, and nobody thought we could do it. Win. They were criticizing us. About you know me being young and training people. So we won. Number
Okay.
two is when I got the nod to train Mike Tyson.
Mm.
Number three is when Frankie Randall knocked down Julio Cesar Chavez and went on to win the heavyweight championship of the world. There's some thrilling moments, and I didn't train
Well,
from
junior
from
welterweight, I think it was then.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I done
Uh,
trained from bantamweight, heavyweight, all the way class from Meldrick Taylor, Hector Camacho, Michael Nunn, Simon Brown, Julian Jackson. Julian Jackson when he knocked out Terry Norris. That was a thrilling moment on the Wide World of Sports. Back then, at week before Mike Tyson fought, I was training
Julian
Julian
Jackson,
and
the
Mike.
greatest punches in boxing history. Julian Jackson for one punch.
Yeah,
Aaron, what do
and
you think of the heavyweight division today?
well, the heavyweight division are they're coming along,
2 minute
but
warning, Frank.
they're coming along, and it's great to see that a fight that should have happened a long time ago looks like it's going to happen between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. I think that's just a barn burner fight for the fan.
Who are you going to be picking?
Who am I going to pick? I'm gonna go with Anthony Joshua, and here's why. It's based on performance. All that Anthony Joshua has been through. He's willing to step up to the plate, and this is only in a short period of time, and put it all on the line to try to make the fight happen. As Tyson Fury makes a comeback, it don't look like Tyson Fury's serious like he was serious when he was fighting Wilder. And when he was fighting Wilder, he was focused. He was fighting with, and I like Tyson Fury. He's a character, man. He got all to annex. He can fight. He can box. He can punch, and I like him. But
Aaron, we're gonna have to wrap up because we're mostly out of time. You have your own podcast. Very quickly, how can people see your podcast ever?
well, you can go to YouTube and type in the World Boxing Review. It's on there every Saturday from 11 to 12. And then we do special shows like when we had you on, Jack, which you are a great interview. And also on Facebook, the World Boxing Review Facebook page. It's streamed live over there. The content that we put up in shows, and from time to time, just like this weekend, I was in Rochester, New York, with Ali's former wife, Khalila Camacho Ali. We were together doing our thing. We had the Jack Johnson exhibit
Yeah.
up there at that arena, the Blue
Okay,
Cross
Aaron.
Arena, and this kid that fought
Bryce
Bryce
Mills, who we had on.
Bryce
Bryce
Mill.
Mills.
Yes, But
Bryce-
Aaron, I'm going to have to
Bryce
cut in.
Fields is the sleeper. Remember, I
Okay,
Okay,
we've had him on.
he's the sleeper.
Okay,
He-
but Aaron, we're going to have you on again. And this time we're going to, a little more time, we're going to be, there'll be more time to talk because you have some real fascinating stories. We have to, exit tonight because we're under that time frame because we're going live now. The great Aaron Snowell over
Thanks
here.
for coming on, Aaron.
Great
you're
trainer,
welcome.
great
Thank
boxing
you,
guy,
Frank.
great Aaron. Okay, see you.
All right, thank you,
Aaron.
Jack
We'll
and
have you on in
Frank,
the
for
future.
having me on, and I'm sorry that I showed up late.
No, you
problem.
packed it all in. You gave us all the action, in your time more so than most of our other guests. Thanks a lot, Aaron. You were great. See ya.
You're welcome.
Take care.
See you next week, everybody.
All right.
Everyone, have a good week, everyone. See you next week.
Talk to you later, Jack.